In the early 1950s, before television had even begun in Australia, John McCallum, an Australian actor who had been working in England, began to develop a television series based on the bushrange of Ben Hall. McCallum reasoned that a series for international release with a unique Australian ingredient would be something different. This unique Australian difference was a primary consideration that he applied to his later productions, the Queensland Great Barrier Reef in Barrier Reef, and a half-caste Aboriginal detective in Boney. Ben Hall received initial interest, but financial backing was not forthcoming, primarily because the bushrangers would triumph over the police in every episode, contrary to the then accepted television practice of justice always prevailing. Fast forward to 1964, Australian feature film and television drama production had become sporadic, but a turning point for the industry came in October with the premiere of the groundbreaking Crawford production series Homicide. The success of Homicide paved the way for other television drama productions, which in turn provided a foundation for the revival of the Australian film industry. Around this time, John McCallum, back in Australia, began production on a feature film, They're a Weird Mob, about an Italian immigrant baffled by the Australian culture. It was released in 1966 to considerable success, although it took 8 years for production costs to be recouped. McCallum got together with Lee Robinson, production supervisor on the film, and Sydney lawyer Bob Austin, and considered that making films for television could be a more lucrative venture. For this purpose they formed Fauna Productions. It's interesting to note that Fauna always used the name Norfolk International on their productions, primarily for tax purposes. Their initial plan was to follow the success of They're a Weird Mob with a spin-off series, but it was soon realised that the subject had limited appeal for overseas audiences. Even though it broke box office records in Australia, the film had little success in other countries. Unlike Crawford Productions, who were making shows primarily for a local audience, Fauna's vision was always for the international market. Their London agent suggested that a children's series would have much better sales prospects overseas, and based on the success of other TV shows such as Lassie, The Littlest Hobo, and Flipper, they came up with Skippy, a half-hour adventure series with a uniquely Australian flavour. A pilot episode was made in 1966, produced on film and in colour. Lee Robinson and Bob Austin took the pilot episode on a world trip to gauge possible markets. England and Europe appeared to offer good sales prospects, and the NBC network in America was initially enthusiastic. In Australia, John McCallum had offered first refusal of the show to Frank Packer, head of the 9 network television stations. Upon seeing the pilot, Packer was sufficiently impressed to pay the asking price of $6,000 per episode for perpetuity, which was quickly negotiated to 10 years, with an option for another 10 years at $3,000. Packer also indicated that he would buy as many episodes as they could produce. It was widely reported at the time that it was the highest price the 9 network had ever paid for any series. Filming commenced in May 1967 on the strength of the sale to Channel 9 and the optimism of covering the remaining 2/3 of the costs from overseas sales. A lot of work had to be done before filming could commence. Production offices had to be set up in Sydney, and permission was required from the New South Wales state government to occupy land in the Ku-ring-gai Chase National Park north of Sydney. A house was built in the park to function as ranger headquarters and residence in the series, both for exterior and interior scenes. Power and water supply had to be connected, and roads had to be constructed, together with a helipad and servicing area for the helicopter. Taking their half-dozen or so completed episodes, John McCallum and Bob Austin headed off abroad to flog their new show. First stop was the offices of NBC in New York, where they previously had met with an enthusiastic response. Not so this time. The NBC executives did not like the stories, or the acting, or the Aussie accents. They said the series could not be sold in America, and in any case, all the available time slots were already occupied by cartoons. The other 2 networks, ABC and CBS, were equally unenthusiastic. So, somewhat dejected, it was off to London, where they met with much better response. Global television services were impressed with the show, and sales were soon made to England, Holland and Belgium. In Australia, the series premiered in February 1968 on the 9 network in a 7 p.m. Monday time slot in most capital cities. In spite of the financial difficulties, continuing overseas sales inspired optimism, and in April 1968 a second series commenced production. When the second series commenced, plans were formulated for the production of a feature-length movie for cinema release, to be filmed after 13 episodes of the second series had been completed.
A movie?
Filming of the Skippy movie commenced on October 11, 1968. The Intruders, often referred to as Skippy and the Intruders, premiered in December 1969 in time to capitalise on the school holiday audience. During filming of the second series, a major breakthrough occurred. A sale was made to the United States. Breakfast cereal manufacturer Kellogg's entered into a syndication deal which would see Skippy eventually being shown on more than 160 American television stations, commencing in January 1969. Guest artists were numerous throughout all three series of Skippy, including such notables as Kathy Trout, 17-year-old world deep-sea diving champion, Ron and Valerie Taylor, husband and wife award-winning underwater cinematographers, the Aboriginal Theatre from Yirrkala in Arnhem Land, Northern Territory, Sydney pop group The Executives, Chips Rafferty, John Laws, Barry Crocker, Frank Thring, and Jerry Duggan as Mr. Trundle. The third series ran to only 13 episodes, making a total of 91, and production was wound up in September 1969. It could be argued that the most well-known Australian television star internationally is a kangaroo.
What have you got there, Skip? Why on earth would you kill this? All right, I know you didn't. It's been killed with a stick. Where'd you find it, Skip? No, don't bother, Sonny. He's busy doing his classes. You and I'll handle this. Hasn't got anything to do with the school teachers, has it, Skip? Did they kill it? It didn't bite one of them, did it, Skip? No. There must be real panic going on out there. Oh, come on, Skip. You'll have to show me where they are.
It's the scene. It's idiotic. No self-respecting actor should be asked to appear with animals or children. They kill you every time. And I hate animals.